How's it going, guys? And welcome to Formar Ranch. So today is a sad day in American and probably even Belgian history, and that is FN's announcement of the discontinuation of both the SCAR 17 and the SCAR 16 platform. SCAR 20 as well. I don't have the trifecta right now, don't have all three. Now, initially there were some rumors that it was only the RCH versions, which are the versions that the good Lord and SOCOM intended to be in existence. But per FN's latest social media post, they are also discontinuing the NRCH version, which is for those of you guys who could not figure out hand placement on the handguard and kept giving yourself a bad day at the range. I digress though. It is kind of sad. Obviously, I have now invested in the platform. This is as of the last 30 days actually, so I haven't decided if I invested at the best possible time or the worst possible time. I'm not really sure yet. Now, this is a bit of a PSA and history lesson about the SCAR platform, because I see a lot of people already panic buying. So if you look online for SCAR 17 mags, for example, they're pretty much wiped out across the floor. Now, FN has said that parts and accessories are still gonna be supported for the foreseeable future. It's not yet determined when that's gonna end. So I don't think there's a reason or need to panic buy just yet. It seems like the rifles themselves are still selling at fair prices. I'm sure price gouging is soon to follow, unfortunately. My biggest concern is, 20, 30 years from now, what we're looking at, not necessarily 20, 30 days from now, like a lot of people buying everything up are kind of thinking. There's some speculation on why they're discontinuing them, and just sharing my thoughts on that too. So these are roughly $4,000 retail rifles. So it's not really a budget rifle. The average Joe isn't usually trekking around with SCARs at the range. Matter of fact, I rarely see SCARs at the range, especially the 16 seems to be a lot less common than the 17. Now, personally, I invested in these for the channel to do optics testing because a lot of you guys kept asking, does it hold up to SCAR recoil? So this is a reciprocating charging handle 16, so I can quantify performance of lasers and optics on 5.56 in a conservative platform. And I'm doing the same thing as well on the 30 cal side of the house with the SCAR 17 with a reciprocating charging handle. So that is why I got these, and weeks later, FN drops the bomb on us regarding what they're doing. I think the likely reason is the new line of rifles that FN is probably gonna prioritize or reallocate resources to support. Personally, they look neat, but they look a little bit more AR-centric compared to the SCARs being something a little bit more unique, and something to me that's a little bit more interesting. But obviously FN is doing things for a reason when they're producing new lines for new requirements that may have arose. But it is a bummer to see the discontinuation of the SCAR. The other possibility, which is smaller, is maybe FN is doing one of the best marketing moves you possibly can to instill essentially a wave of panic buying. I mean, like I said, the magazines can't be had right now. I think Optics Planet said back ordered to April of 2026, among other retailers as well, having extended lead times now for the magazines. So I find it very interesting. If FN pulls that one, I think there'll be a bit of a relief, but it's also kind of a playing dirty to an extent as well, but we'll see what happens.
But all joking aside, my real theory is kind of related to the panic buying scenario, but not so maliciously intended. They are referring to the existing SCARs as their legacy SCARs. There was some images floating around from an NGSW showroom circa about 3 years ago showing what looks to be a potential second generation SCAR. Now, I've also heard rumors that the FN personnel won't acknowledge this, they won't talk about it, which makes it seem even more likely that they are getting ready to unveil a new second generation of SCAR. Hence the legacy being discontinued, but not the SCAR platform as a whole. I found it interesting that they continue to use the term legacy rather than just saying the SCAR line itself is discontinued. They also said to wait for SHOT Show to see what's in the pipeline, which I think would be perfect timing to unveil the updated generation of the SCAR line. So fingers crossed, hopefully this theory proves true, but this is what I'm currently leaning towards.
Now, the third thing I will speculate is that FN discovered we were all running suppressors on our SCARs, and essentially their warranty across the board was void and they didn't want to deal with us suppressing the SCAR platform anymore. And the easiest answer was to just shut down the entire line. But I think the craziest thing is, even with them announcing the discontinuation of the 16, 17, and 20, they are still going to be producing the 15, so the pistol version for, again, the foreseeable future, with no end date in sight or named as of yet. So that's kind of interesting. I'm not overly familiar with parts interchangeability on the 15P, so maybe we can still get some level of support from those parts. But again, we'll see how long the 15P is around. Now, taking a quick trip down memory lane, our story begins in 2004 when SOCOM issued a requirement for a new rifle. Dubbed probably the coolest acronym ever, the SCAR, which is the Special Operations Forces Combat Assault Rifle, was designed by FN to be modular, multi-caliber, and adaptable to any mission. The intent was to replace aging systems with a platform that was modular with the ability to swap barrels, calibers, and rolls on the fly. FN did win the contract in November of 2004 for both the 5.56 and 7.62 variants of the SCAR. With some delays, initial production kicked off in June of 2007, and by April of 2009, the first SCARs were in the hands of the 75th Ranger Regiment. Now, this quickly helped the SCAR get the lore that it has right now, because when you see those SOCOM boys rocking these new assault rifles, obviously it piques a lot of interest. Hollywood, video games, and other media were soon to follow, making the SCAR an iconic platform that it is now. But at some point during all this, in 2008, the SCAR entered the civilian United States market in the 16S and 17S versions, with 5.56 and 7.62 respectively. Now, beyond the United States using it, the SCAR ended up being used by over 25 countries, and it replaced a lot of existing assault rifles out there. Now, the good news is that FN does plan to continue the military and law enforcement line for these, so there are going to be receivers and parts being produced. Obviously, we as civilians are not going to be able to get all of those, but at least they will somewhat be in circulation, which gives me a little bit more hope for parts availability and support decades from now. Again, I'm not really so worried short term, especially with these are well-built rifles. Cold hammer forged barrels should last you potentially up to 50,000 rounds, so I'm not overly worried about it. The people that are probably more worried about it are the ones that are training regularly, talking thousands of rounds a month. You may, obviously, rightfully so, have some concern about the longevity of the platform if support does subside. So I thought I'd put some information out there for those that weren't aware. If you're contemplating buying a SCAR, it's probably a decent time to do so, again, before the price gouging takes into effect, if not already by the time I post this video. If you're thinking of selling your SCAR, I encourage you to be a decent human being and not rip each other off, especially if the dust settles and it's really overhyped. And please stop panic buying. If you have enough SCAR magazines, leave some for the rest of us. Please. I only got 2 for this baby, and I could use a few more. But anyways, if you're sticking around, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. And as always, guys, have a good one. Full mag. This is empty mag. Neat. Still got one in the tube though.